All right, so today we're jumping into Plato's Republic.
Yeah.
And we're focusing on Book 1, Chapter 3, where this whole debate about justice gets, well, pretty intense, actually. So picture this. You're in the middle of this lively discussion, right? Everyone's trying to figure out what justice really is.
That's familiar.
And then Thrasymachus just bursts in, completely shakes things up.
Oh, I know Thrasymachus. Always got to make an entrance.
He does. And he doesn't hold back at all. Basically comes right out and says, might makes right.
So, like, justice is just whatever the powerful people decide it is.
Exactly. No real moral principle behind it. Laws are just tools to keep those in power in control.
It's a pretty cynical take, isn't it?
Super cynical. And then he uses this really stark example to prove his point.
Okay, let's hear it.
Imagine a tyrant who just uses their power to benefit themselves and...
crushes anyone in their way.
Exactly. Thrasymachus is basically saying if they can get away with it, that's justice.
So how does Socrates respond to that?
Well, so if you're...
Mr. Truth and Virtue.
Right. He's not going to just let that slide.
So what does he do?
He starts picking apart Thrasymachus' argument, especially his definition of the stronger party.
Stronger party.
Yeah, like what does that even mean?
Good point. Stronger could mean a lot of things.
Right. It could be physical strength, but it could also be...
Could be moral superiority.
Yes. Or even just, like, more knowledgeable.
So Socrates is basically making Thrasymachus think deeper.
Exactly. And it leads to this fascinating shift in the debate.
Oh. What happened?
Thrasymachus starts backing off a little.
Interesting.
And he starts emphasizing knowledge and skills needed to rule.
Okay.
And he brings up this idea of an art of government, suggesting that, like, a true ruler...
It's not just about brute force.
Right. They need some expertise to govern well.
So it's not just about being strong, but being skilled at ruling.
Yes. And then Socrates, he throws in these analogies.
He loves analogy.
He compares governing to physician and a ship's captain.
Oh, right. I remember this.
So the point is, like, a good doctor shouldn't be focused on, you know...
their own profit.
but on the health of their patients.
And a captain should care about the crew, not about getting rich.
Exactly. And Socrates connects this back to government.
Makes sense.
A true ruler should, like any skilled craftsman.
Put the needs of the people first.
Yes. Their well-being is the priority.
That's a pretty different view from Thrasymachus' whole might makes right thing, huh?
Completely different. It makes you think, like...
should power just be for personal gain?
Right. Or is there some, you know, higher purpose to leadership?
Big questions.
Huge. But Thrasymachus, he isn't done yet.
Oh, I bet not.
He comes back with this real-world example.
Uh-oh.
Trying to counter this whole idea of a selfless ruler.
I'm intrigued. What's the example?
He brings up shepherds. He says, think about it. Shepherds don't really care about the sheep.
Well, they take care of them.
Yeah, but only to, you know...
fatten them up for profit.
Exactly. And he's saying, basically, rulers are the same. They just exploit their subjects.
Wow. Cynical, but kind of makes you think.
It really does.
Yeah.
So is Socrates being naive? Are all rulers just selfish?
Well, Socrates, he has an answer for that, of course.
I figured he would.
He refines the analogy a bit.
Okay, how so?
He says, look, a shepherd's primary job, i.s., caring for the flock.
Okay.
The wages, they come from a different role.
Like as a wage earner.
Exactly. Two separate things.
So it's like a doctor running their own practice.
Yeah, they have two roles.
The physician, who cares for the patient?
And the business owner, who needs to, well...
make money.
right. Not always in conflict, but definitely separate.
Makes sense. And the fact that rulers need to be paid to govern...
it kind of suggests...
that it's a burden.
right. Something they wouldn't do without getting something in return.
So Thrasymachus is saying good people wouldn't rule just for the sake of it.
Seems like it. So who does seek power and why?
That's a big question.
It is, and it gets even trickier because Thrasymachus, he doubles down
On what?
on the idea that being unjust actually leads to a happier life.
Wow, that's a bold statement.
He's not holding back.
So Trasymachus is saying that if you can get away with it, being unjust is the way to go. Is that really what he's suggesting?
Well, he's definitely pushing us to think about what we really value. It might feel wrong, but are we just afraid of the consequences?
But Socrates, he can't just accept that, can he? How does he challenge this idea that injustice equals happiness?
He goes right to the core of it. Socrates argues that even if an unjust person seems successful, powerful, rich, untouchable even, they're missing something crucial.
What's that?
A well-ordered soul.
Well-ordered soul.
Oh.
Sounds kind of abstract. What does Socrates even mean by that?
It's about inner harmony. that comes from virtuous living.
Okay.
Think of it like this. For Socrates, justice goes deeper than just following the law. It's about cultivating a balance within yourself.
So it's not just outward actions, but your inner state too.
Right. Aligning your actions with what you truly believe is right.
So even if you're a big shot who got there by being shady, if your actions go against your own morals, you're going to be messed up inside.
Exactly. Socrates believed that real happiness comes from living by your principles, not from rewards you get by being unjust.
But then why are so many people drawn to injustice if it messes them up?
That's the question, isn't it? Socrates gets it. It's tempting to give in to those desires, especially when it looks like you can get away with it. Choosing the just path, it's not always a walk in the park.
Thrasymachus made it seem like those who follow the rules are missing out, like they're suckers. He was all about getting ahead no matter who you hurt.
And Socrates understood that appeal, that look out for number one mentality. But he truly believed we can be better. We can reason. We can choose to act on our principles, even when it's hard.
But does he have, proof that the just life is better? Some kind of philosophical formula? Justice equals happiness.
Not exactly a mathematical proof, more like he uses analogies, thought experiments to show that living justly leads to a kind of inner strength, peace that injustice can never give you.
So quality over quantity, like having a clear conscience, a sense of purpose.
Yes. He argues a just person is less swayed by emotions, less fearful, less anxious, more content.
I get that. If you're always worried about getting caught, you can't really be at peace, can you?
Nope. And Socrates takes it further. He says a just person also has better relationships.
Why is that?
Because they are trustworthy. They don't build relationships on manipulation, so they can create genuine bonds based on respect, shared values.
So living a just life, it's its own reward. It's about who you become, not what you gain.
Exactly. And it goes beyond the individual. Socrates talks about the impact on society as a whole.
What does he say?
When individuals prioritize fairness, respect, it creates a more harmonious community, a community that benefits everyone.
But Thrasymachus doesn't buy into that, does he? He's so stuck on that power-hungry view.
True. He remains skeptical, but that contrast is important. It makes us face our own ideas about what a good life is, where justice fits into our choices.
It's kind of disturbing to think that good people, those who want justice, wouldn't want to be in charge. So who ends up in power and what are their motives?
That's a question that still haunts us today, doesn't it? Is there a conflict between seeking power and seeking justice?
It makes me think about those analogies, the doctor, the ship captain. Are those in power actually serving the people, or are they driven by something else? It's a lot to think about.
And there's more to uncover. This clash with Thrasymachus, it's just the start. Socrates begins to imagine what a truly just society would look like.
That sounds fascinating. Where does he go from there?
He introduces this idea, it's one of the most famous from the Republic,
What is it?
the city in speech.
City and speech. I've heard that before, but it's always been a bit confusing. What does it mean?
Basically, Socrates says to understand justice in the individual, we need to zoom out, look at it in a whole society. So he imagines a city being built from scratch.
Kind of like a thought experiment, a blueprint for a just society.
Precisely. He starts with the basics: food, shelter, clothes. Naturally, this leads to specialization.
People focusing on different skills.
Yeah. Farmers, builders, weavers, all that. You can't have everyone doing everything. You need people working together, each with their own talents.
Makes sense. So as this city grows, what happens?
Things get more complex. You need defense, governance, education. This creates different classes within the city: soldiers, rulers, teachers.
So is a just society where everyone knows their place and sticks to it? Sounds a little rigid.
Remember, it's an ideal model, not a hard and fast rule book for real life. Socrates is exploring this concept of justice as harmony, balance, everyone playing their part, contributing to the good of the whole.
So not about squashing individual freedom, but about finding a way for everyone to contribute in a way that benefits everyone else.
Exactly. And this brings us to one of the most interesting figures in Socrates' ideal city,
Who's that?
the philosopher king.
Ah, the philosopher king, ruling this perfect
A
society.
fascinating concept.
But to be honest, I'm having trouble picturing it.
A philosopher running a government.
Yeah, it seems kind of strange.
It does go against our usual image of philosophers, doesn't it?
Totally. Aren't they supposed to be,
Up in their ivory towers,
Exactly. Debating the meaning of life, not...
not dealing with potholes and tax policies.
Exactly.
Well, Socrates would say we're misunderstanding true wisdom.
Oh, How so?
He argues it's not just about theoretical knowledge,
But about,
understanding the principles of a just and harmonious life.
for both individuals and society.
Exactly. It's knowing what's right, why it's right, and how to actually put it into practice.
So a philosopher king isn't just a thinker, but a doer.
Precisely. They can translate those insights into leadership.
Okay, I'm starting to see it, but wouldn't it take a very specific kind of person to be a philosopher king?
Socrates sets a high bar. First, a deep love of truth, a constant drive to seek knowledge,
So they're not just reading books, but really questioning everything.
always digging deeper, trying to understand the essence of things.
And what else?
They need to be able to reason clearly, logically.
No snap decisions.
No. Carefully considering everything, weighing it against those core principles.
Makes sense. Anything else?
The biggest one, maybe. A genuine concern for others.
Not just power hungry.
Not at all. They're motivated by a sense of duty, a desire to serve the common good.
It's hard to imagine a politician like that.
Socrates knew it would be rare. He wasn't naive about human nature, the temptations of power.
But he still believed in this ideal.
He did. The philosopher king, for him, was the best hope for a just society.
It really challenges how we usually see leadership, doesn't it?
It does. We're used to thinking of leaders as driven by self-interest.
Maintaining control, pushing their own agendas.
Right. But the philosopher king offers something different. Leadership based on wisdom, integrity, and a true concern for everyone.
It's a powerful idea, even if it seems impossible to actually achieve.
Maybe the value is in the questions it makes us ask.
Okay.
What should we look for in our leaders? How can we encourage those with wisdom and integrity to lead? And how can we, as individuals, cultivate those same virtues?
It's like Socrates is giving us a goal to strive for, both for ourselves and for those who govern us.
We may never find a perfect philosopher king.
But we can work towards those qualities.
Wisdom, justice, a commitment to the common good.
It's been quite a journey, exploring this debate between Trasymachus and Socrates.
From might makes right to this vision of a just society led by a philosopher king.
It's given us a lot to think about.
And hopefully it will encourage our listeners to keep wrestling with these big questions.
So keep seeking knowledge, keep asking those tough questions, and keep trying to make the world a better place.
Couldn't have said it better myself.